Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something you've probably heard about, but maybe don't know the whole story. The global financial system's unofficial police force. I'm talking about the Financial Action Task Force. You know it as the FATF.
So have you ever wondered, how do international criminals and terrorists actually hide and move their money? I mean, we're talking about billions, maybe even trillions of dollars from drug trafficking, smuggling, and all sorts of other nasty stuff. And it's not like they're just stuffing it under a mattress. It gets washed, absorbed into the real global economy, making it almost impossible to find. So how on earth do they pull it off?
Okay, so before we can get to the solution, you've got to understand the problem. And it's really two huge intertwined threats that the entire world is facing.
So, first on the list, money laundering. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like a washing machine, but for cash. Criminals take all that dirty money from their illegal business, run it through a whole bunch of complicated transactions, and voila, it comes out looking clean and legitimate. This lets them spend their profits without anyone batting an eye. And then you have the second thread, terrorist financing. Now, this is where it gets a little different, and it's a super important distinction. The money itself can come from totally legitimate sources. We're talking donations, regular businesses. But it's all being funneled to fund terrorism. The goal isn't making a profit, it's causing destruction.
So why should you care about any of this? Well, because this stuff isn't happening in a vacuum. It's not a victimless crime, not by a long shot. This illicit money is the fuel for more crime. It poisons our financial systems, and it's a direct threat to global safety. It's a cancer that weakens everything it touches.
All right, a problem this big, you can't just have one country trying to solve it. It needs a global response. And that's where our watchdog comes in.
Just so you know where we're getting our info, everything we're talking about today is drawn from the NISM IFSCA workbook on anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing. So, this is the FATF. Now, don't picture some kind of world government or a police force with SWAT teams. It's not like that. Think of it more like an intergovernmental body that sets the rules of the road for everyone, the international standards that every country is supposed to follow to keep their money clean.
And this whole thing didn't just appear out of nowhere. The FATF actually got its start way back in 1989, founded by the G7 specifically to go after money laundering. But, everything changed after the 9/11 attacks in 2001. Suddenly, combating terrorist financing became a massive, urgent priority, and the FATF's mission expanded in a huge way.
Fast forward to today, and while the FATF only has 40 official members, its reach is, well, it's global. We're talking about more than 200 countries and jurisdictions that have all committed to playing by its rules. So yeah, this relatively small group is setting the financial standard for pretty much the entire planet.
So how does the FATF actually do this? How do they set these standards? Well, it all boils down to one incredibly powerful document, the 40 recommendations. You can really think of this as the world's playbook for fighting dirty money. It's not just a friendly list of suggestions either. It's a super detailed guide that tells countries exactly what kinds of laws and systems they need to have in place. And when I say comprehensive, I mean it. Just look at the areas they cover. It's everything from big picture government policy, like making money laundering a crime, all the way down to the nitty-gritty, like preventative measures for banks and rules on who actually owns a company. It's a full 360-degree attack on the problem. Okay, so what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's take a peek at Recommendation 10. This is the bedrock of what's known as Know Your Customer, or KYC. Basically, it means banks can't just blindly open an account for anyone who walks in. They have a duty to figure out who their customers really are.
Another absolutely critical piece of the puzzle is this: reporting suspicious transactions. If a bank sees something weird, a transaction that's overly complex, makes no economic sense, just feels off, they are legally required to report it to the authorities. This pretty much turns every bank and financial institution into a lookout on the front lines.
Okay, but what happens if a country just decides not to play along? I mean, the FATF doesn't have an army, but it does have something that might be even more powerful: its lists. So, there are really two lists you need to know about. First is the gray list. Think of this as a warning shot. It's for countries that have problems and have promised to fix them, but they're now under intense scrutiny. Then you have the blacklist, and that's a 5-alarm fire for the entire global financial system. It's a signal that a country is high risk and everyone else needs to protect themselves.
Yeah, getting blacklisted is basically the financial equivalent of being kicked out of the club. It can completely choke off a country's access to international money, banking, even things like humanitarian aid. This is how the FATF flexes its muscle. It can, effectively, unplug a country from the world economy.
All right, let's pull all this together. Why does any of this matter to you and me? Why should we care about this alphabet soup of organizations and rules? Because it really comes down to this. Every single dollar of dirty money that gets stopped is a direct hit against some of the most dangerous criminal groups on earth. The work the FATF does, it directly messes with the business models of drug cartels, illegal arms dealers, cybercriminals, and terrorist organizations.
At the end of the day, the goal here is to build a global financial system that's based on integrity, not one that's greased by the profits of crime. A stable, trustworthy system is just crucial for everyone's safety and prosperity. But here's the thing. The financial world never stops moving. With the rise of things like cryptocurrency and trade getting more complex every day, criminals are always finding new, dark corners to hide in. The FATF was built to solve the problems of the last century, so the real question is, can it keep up and win the fight in this one?